So hello, Henk, Werner, welcome. Lovely to have you on our YouTube channel today. I'm Jennifer from Haizol. We're super excited that you're joining us to chat all about Innovation Drive. So I'll let you introduce that in a moment, but welcome. And would you like to say anything about yourself, first of all?
Well, I'm a Dutch guy from Amsterdam, living in China now for 10 years. Had my share of adventures, and I'm ready to share some of that.
Amazing. And whereabouts are you living? You're living in China, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in the south of China, in Shenzhen. Like, you can basically walk to Hong Kong, except now with the Corona, that's not really wise because you wouldn't be able to get back in China. But I mean, it's that close, right? It's totally in the south, and it's basically the city where, like, whatever 95% of the world's consumer electronics and other stuff is produced.
Okay, amazing. And you're part of a team at Innovation Drive based in Shenzhen. Can you tell me a bit about what Innovation Drive is? How does it work and what are you doing?
Yeah, right, thanks. Innovation Drive is an accelerator program. It's a 14-week program for, I mean, what we call everyday inventors, also like mom and pop inventors, basically people with a daytime job or small teams that have a great idea and have been contemplating on bringing that into the world, but may not have a clue or not have all the information they need to realize that. So it's a 14-week program that guides the teams or the people from like understanding your market, doing market research, to building your community, to branding, setting up your company, learning about prototyping, manufacturing, the legal side, certification, how to get funding. We also have a fund to support for the qualifying teams. And then in the last week, it's a demo day with a lineup of investors. The teams have practiced and improved their pitch all those weeks, and they do their pitch in front of the investors. And if there's a match, then they get invested. And if they have their own funding and they don't need that, then that program teams them up ready to start with manufacturing and putting the things into practice.
That sounds amazing. And where are these people based? Are they worldwide or are they just based in China? And what kind of projects have you been working on recently?
Yeah, so originally this program came from Australia. Two of my good friends and now partners have started this in Sydney a few years ago. Recently, I joined them for the Shenzhen branch. Before that, they already had an extra branch in Queensland. And what they did in Australia was purely like an in-person accelerator program. So the teams had to come to their base to get the coaching once a week. It's a part-time program, and then do their missions, let's say their homework, the implementation of what they've learned through the week. And then when we decided that it's a good idea that Shenzhen joins the team, I mentioned, you know, I think it's a good idea if we make it a hybrid program. So in China, if there are teams in China, they're welcome to join us once a week, where they get coached by 3 or 4 mentors every week. But we also have a lot of teams from our existing community from my other company. Maybe we can touch on that a little bit later, which are currently not in China and who would really benefit from this program. So I mentioned, can we make it a hybrid program where people can join the program even if they're not in Australia or not in China? So that's what we did.
No, I think that's really, really beneficial, especially in this time that we're going through right now. And I think what you're teaching is so important that actually everybody worldwide could benefit. So going hybrid and online is definitely was definitely a good option. And I know that you were able to establish the Shenzhen branch in just a couple of months, and also 5 more cities you rolled out. Was it just a month later? How did you manage to do that, and how's it going so far?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think that has to do with the other company. I've been running a makerspace for 5 years, and we've been building our community. And the majority of that community is currently not in China. But this like the makerspace basically addresses the same audience as what this program does. It's like who visits a makerspace? That's people with an idea for a product and who want to get advice from peer makers or peer inventors. So when they come to China, because they kind of know they need China for their manufacturing, and they come to Shenzhen, then TroubleMaker, the name of our makerspace, is it's kind of like a living room, a hangout where people mingle, meet, ask each other advice, and then there are labs where they can actually use the machines and the tools to make their own prototypes. So with that already up and running and being alive in the community, it was fairly easy for us to add the accelerator program to that. And to get to your second question, we have been located for 5 years in Huaqiangbei, which is like the world's largest electronics and electronics components market, like with millions of square meters of electronic shops. And we were located in a co-work space, and that co-work space couldn't survive because of COVID, so they closed their doors. And for us, we wanted to decide where we would move to. And we've had a partnership with another co-work space in another district, and we decided to move in there, and they have locations all over China. So when I introduced Innovation Drive to them, they said, well, why don't we immediately roll it out over the other cities? So at this moment, we're rolling out in Foshan, Beijing, Shandong, Qingdao, and Wuxi.
Wow, that's amazing. Really key cities as well. And congratulations on that. That's a really, really massive achievement in such a short space of time. So really impressive. Just shows the concept's working and you're really helping a lot of people with it.
Yeah, and I think also that it's really, I mean, this shows what I've always been like preaching to everybody, like get the right partners, work with the right partners. Like we are your partner for making connections and making introductions. But you also benefit from partners, like first of all in your team, and then partners here in China where you cooperate with. And perhaps don't always see them as just like as a supplier or something external, because they're able to do things what you're not able to do. I mean, you're not a manufacturer, probably, very likely, and they're doing it for I don't know how long. So see them as part of your team, and learn from their advice, learn from their questions, and grow together into bringing a great product to market.
Exactly. It sounds spot on what you advise, and really, really beneficial. So you advertise Innovation Drive kind of as a place that helps everyday inventors to get their hardware product idea to be materialized. Why would a small or medium-sized business come to you in China then if they have a product or part to manufacture? What are the benefits of that?
I think in a lot of situations, products are kind of not manufacturable in the country where you live. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's too expensive if you need to position yourself in the market. Sometimes lead times, production times take too long. And even if you have the intention to, let's say, do the final assembly in your country, a lot of times you see that sub-assemblies or raw materials are purchased from China, manufactured in China, where this whole industry is mature and set up to produce fast and in a clean way. Like the Chinese government is also really strict on environmental rules. I mean, they have their set of rules, and they're really, really strict in like kind of forcing these manufacturers to follow up on that. So for example, like PCB production, PCB is like really a very toxic product to produce. But those factories, they are like mini cities where nothing gets out of their compound. Like they have their own wastewater treatment installations to totally like clean and regenerate everything and reuse everything. And that's very efficient. So you can get your PCBs really quickly, and you're not having an environmental impact. Whereas if you would do that in other places, it's often slower, more expensive, and maybe there is an environmental impact. So for either your full production, you're looking at China, or at least for your raw materials or for sub-assemblies, and then the rest in your own country. So until now, China is a really important country if you want to bring a hardware product to market.
100%, completely agree with you. I think it's the key country to go to. So I completely agree. And you help these small, medium-sized enterprises define their hardware roadmap in China. What advice would you give someone then who has a product and they would like to produce in China? Where to start, what to look out for? What advice would you give them if they were starting out?
I think the foremost advice I would give them is reach out to me. And that's not to advertise myself, because when I say me, I'm talking about TroubleMaker. And TroubleMaker is kind of like, it's acting more like a consulate. It's kind of like a chamber of commerce. It's a community or a platform of people who advise each other based on their personal experience on the potential best ways to proceed. And if you're new to China, that is invaluable to get that kind of information from somebody who doesn't immediately have a financial agenda behind it. And once you have your first question answered, then you probably also know a little bit in which directions you want to find your supply chain. And then you go out and about, like talking with them, figuring out things. And then you can again come back to that community, ask your questions to see, well, I got this advice. Is that realistic, or am I being pulled in a direction where I shouldn't go? Because if you wouldn't have access to that kind of network, then you have to figure out everything by yourself. And I mean, time after time, it's proven that that's a really very risky way to go. A lot of people don't see the dangers on the road, which are very often not even malicious. It's just normal business practice that if you're dealing with somebody who is not really an expert, then from the point of view of a supplier, that means they can earn more money because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know how it works. So they are there to make money, and you're the one where they can earn money. And if you have access to that network and that community where you can kind of bounce off your questions and your ideas, is that, okay, what they do is kind of normal, but if you would ask this or this, then you will see that your prices drop, or they give you a better solution, or they give you a better lead time, and that kind of suggestions you get from a community.
And that sounds great. And again, like you said, it's invaluable advice rather than somebody doing trial and error themselves and then perhaps it not working out so well for them because they don't know what to ask and how to go about it. You source manufacturers for these innovators to have their designs come to life, and you have worked with Haizol in the past on this. So as you know, Haizol, we're a manufacturing marketplace and we're also manufacturers as well. But essentially we're a sourcing platform where people can find different suppliers for machining, all sorts of manufacturing processes related to metal and plastic. So could you tell me a bit about how Haizol have assisted your mentees, should we call them, in the past?
Yeah, right. Yeah, in the last 2 years, there have been a couple of projects where I was not personally involved in it because I've only joined Innovation Drive recently, but where my colleagues have used your services to source the components for their products. And they're very happy with that, and they're until the day of today, they're still using those resources, and there is no intention to stop using your services.
Yes, that's really, really nice to hear. And especially because for your mentees, I guess their order quantity is often quite small, if not a prototype. So a lot of the factories, you know, they have a large minimum order quantity. So with Haizol, obviously, prototypes are absolutely fine. And also, if we partnered with another factory, we'd make sure that it was somebody who had low minimum order quantities. So that's beneficial. And we already pre-vet the factory so that they know, again, it's more of the advice. They already know that it's a reputable factory that's been checked. So we are one of the largest manufacturers and manufacturing marketplaces in China. We have actually over 200,000 partner factories. What do you think are the benefits of using a platform like Haizol and like TroubleMaker for overseas buyers, rather than just kind of sourcing and finding that advice in their home country?
Yeah. What Haizol does is what I envisioned what TroubleMaker would grow into. Now, what I've seen is that within our community, we if you're one team, you're kind of limited in how many suppliers you reach out to, and then you're even more limited in how many suppliers you're actually working with. So you're actually building experience with them, and you can assess them, and you can then advise them to others. So even though I kind of envisioned that TroubleMaker would grow into a platform like Haizol, we never did. We have indeed a nice base of even like freelancers also. That's a little bit where we might be a little bit different. Like we also have a community of freelancers. We call them our gurus. So I mean, they can be designers or engineers or legals, whatever. It's kind of part of the community. But in the sense of manufacturers, our network is reasonably limited. And when I was introduced to Haizol, I was like, I mean, that's what I wanted to create. And now I don't have to create it anymore because it exists. I can just partner up with you. Because it's such a comfort to have access to basically anything you need in China, and can be assured that you're dealing with like a real manufacturer, not with a middleman, and that there are people who have assessed the factory, that you have that you basically can confidently do business with that supplier. I think that's invaluable again.
Totally agree. I also think it's really invaluable. And like you said, it's a comfort to know that you have access to exactly what you specifically need within China. So do you favor outsourcing rather than, you know, sourcing in the home country? And I guess with COVID and everything that's been going on, I do think it's more of a talking point than ever before to use digital platforms. Where do you see manufacturing going in the future? Do you think digital manufacturing is now more important, or do you see a decrease in traditional manufacturing methods in favor of outsourcing using these digital means?
Yeah, there's definitely a big shift to digital manufacturing. And I think that's also catalyzed by, it's kind of interesting actually, like COVID has had you've seen a surge in production of consumer electronics, but the general tendency is that like the manufacturing profits have been under pressure, like costs like real estate, labor, or whatever went up. I mean, what you see in every developing country. And that kind of pushed manufacturers to go digital to work more efficient. And by being digital, they're also more able to to receive orders in a structured way. So whenever there's a structure, there's more stability, more safety. You also see initiatives where intermediates, yeah, how do you say that in English? Intermediaries are setting up systems to be able to communicate to multiple manufacturers and have your full supply chain in one application. Now, I do know that there is a really big demand from people to be there in person. Like, people really love to visit a supplier and kind of touch things and be able to kind of feedback their either something what they're not really satisfied with or confused about, that they can immediately communicate that. And that is, I mean, it's just not possible to travel into China. So there's a couple of things that I've seen happening, and that is that the engineers who are still in China, who have been able to stay in China until now, they have grown their expertise in helping startups worldwide to be their eyes and ears and hands in China, like an extended team. And then you have seen that that there are either platforms or the manufacturers themselves who have upgraded their systems to be able to communicate in a very direct way with their customers worldwide, to give that sense of experience of being there, even though you're not. Now, I do want to add to that, there sometimes there is sometimes still reason to actually source some things in your own country. And I see that mainly happen if we're talking about sustainability, like recyclable materials. If you want to produce a product which is very green, cradle to cradle, or less environmental footprint, historically, I think the Chinese manufacturers are not strong in this, and you see that kind of strong in the Nordic countries. You see that in Europe, globally, Germany, Holland, UK. That if the team wants to bring a product to market which is based on materials or manufacturing practices that are as less harmful for the environment as possible, then that sourcing, you see that happening a lot in Europe. And I think one of the reasons is that a lot of times those numbers of production have been not really huge, and that means traditionally that the Chinese supply chain was just less equipped for that. So there is a tendency to slowly have those materials also available in China, but it's not there yet. So it a little bit depends on what you're producing and the circumstances, what you want that manufacturing to happen under.
100%, totally agree. And I do think that traditionally, especially in the past, it was more sustainable and leaner to manufacture in country. I do think that China has improved on that substantially in the last few years and will continue to do so. But again, you're right, it depends what you're producing, the quantity, and that's where TroubleMaker and Haizol can come in and advise on where is the best route to go to market and production. So is there anything else you would like to add, maybe about Innovation Drive or Haizol or TroubleMaker, that you haven't touched on?
Yeah, I think it's just good to express that kind of triangle relationship between having a maker, like a product developer community, together with like a huge supply chain platform, Haizol, and then like a 3-month program to an accelerator program that helps you make sure that you don't overlook essential mistakes, because they're always there. So we work with over 14 mentors in Innovation Drive program from on the different disciplines to make sure that our cohort teams are not missing out on anything. So if you do have a hardware product idea and you know what value it adds to your clients and you can describe how it works, then you basically qualify to enter the program. And then I would strongly suggest to reach out, because if you're now having a daytime job and you're like you had that idea for a long time and it has been lingering in your mind and you want to do something with that, then this triangle of community, program, and supply chain, yeah, that's gonna get this product in the market in just a couple of months.
Yeah, I also see that as invaluable, having this community who are very well established, very knowledgeable, full of experts in the area that you are in, exactly the area you are in, is really invaluable. So I think the triangle that you mentioned is really, really important. And I would also encourage anybody who has a product, whichever phase it's in, if they're looking to streamline the supply chain, or they haven't got a supply chain yet, they want advice, to definitely reach out. So I want to firstly thank you very, very much for coming on and chatting with me today. I know it's quite late, your time in China, so it's much appreciated. And perhaps we can have a follow-up chat in a couple of months' time. When does your next Innovation Drive program kick off? Is it next year, summer?
Yeah, it's in springtime. It starts in the second week of March.
Amazing.
And then it ends in June.
Okay, yeah, so we're looking forward to assisting with that, and I hope that we can keep collaborating, and hopefully Haizol will be able to help some of your mentees on this program for next year. So very exciting time, and thank you so much again.
Totally my pleasure.